All right, folks, welcome in. This is the Four Articles podcast for December 10th, 2024. Um, Welcome into the show, episode 56. Here we are, 6 episodes into the 50s, if you will, and then after that, 4 episodes away from being 60. How about that? We're getting up there in age, getting soon, getting close to retirement here, at least within show age, and obviously we're not going anywhere, but how about that? 56 episodes. We started this. If you are new here, we used to be a Spotify exclusive show. And now here we are on YouTube. I've been on YouTube for about 2 months now, almost 2 months. And I've been doing the show for 56 episodes. Started it back in the spring, not spring, summer. And now here we are. Can't believe it. We are finally well and away halfway to 100 episodes. And thank you guys so much, by the way, for joining in. If you are new here, first of all, welcome in. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast feed. That's sort of number one here. Make sure you subscribe to YouTube, subscribe to the podcast feed on Spotify. Make sure you follow us on Twitter as well at @4verts_pod. Got a playoff bracket reaction. Got coaching searching news, by the way. Some stuff going on at UNC. We'll touch on that here in a little bit. Transfer portal rumors and theories going around. And then finally, Buccaneers reaction to the Raiders game this past weekend. If you guys want to know my initial thoughts on the conference championship games, actual games themselves, there is a Four Verticals extra like emergency podcast that we did on Sunday night, or early Sunday morning, Saturday night. So if you want to give my official thoughts on that, we have to do a double check on that one. So it's a little bit shorter than the original version. So want to hear my official thoughts on that, then obviously go there. That was on Saturday night, Sunday morning. Obviously, now the playoff bracket has been revealed, and I'll give you guys my thoughts on that. I gave some on Twitter initially, but I figured we shall do them on the show here because, well, it's the show. That's where we can give you, that's where I give most of my opinions and whatnot. So, again, if you're new here, welcome in. Make sure you do all the stuff, subscribe, like the stream. Like, I'm trying to get some more viewers here. We have currently three subscribers, which is not bad, all things considered, but real quick here before we go deeper into the show, I'm going to make sure you guys can hear me as per usual. Sometimes the audio doesn't always work. So if you hear some feedback here, won't always be doing this, but going to double check and see if the audio is working. If you listen to this on the the replay or whatnot, or listen to this on the actual live, if you're not listening to this live, listen to this on the replay or on Spotify, then disregard this. But okay, so we are. You can hear me, so we are live. So let's actually get into the show here. A big show here, jam-packed show. I don't usually use that term, but we are jam-packed today. Don't know if it'll go for an hour. We'll see. I'm going to double check and make sure we are. Yes, we are recording on the secondary, not on the YouTube stream, but a secondary recording that I do use, a little behind the scenes there, because I record both the audio only version and the video audio version simultaneously. So how about that? Playoff bracket has been released. It got released Sunday around noonish. Though the ESPN show decided to take its sweet time to release the bracket. Why not? Why not create suspense? Even though now we basically know uh, half of the teams are going to be in per se, so not necessarily a massive surprise, no less. But the bracket is now here. The first round games on campus. If you haven't seen it already, so how we do this? Well, first of all, we did not reseed any of this. It's just like the NCAA tournament. We don't reseed afterwards. So where you're reseeded is where you're reseeded. So, of course, round one, we have 4 on-campus games: Ohio State, Tennessee, and Columbus; Texas, Clemson, and Austin; Notre Dame, Indiana. A little bit of instant rivalry there. How about that? And South Bend, and Beaver State, Penn State, SMU, and then the winner of those games will face the teams in the quarterfinals. So we have the Rose Bowl, Peach Bowl, Fiesta Bowl, Sugar Bowl. Of course, Boise State's in the Festival, very classic venue for them to play in. Same with Georgia and Oregon. Arizona just had to choose the Peach Bowl because Boise State already chose that one. They're seated higher because that's right. Of course, having a G5 team ranked higher than a P4, or I guess one of the bigger conferences makes sense, right? And then of course you get the semifinals, which is in Dallas and Miami, the championship game in Atlanta. So what we did have is the SEC teams left out, which was a surprise to me and some people. If you didn't watch the initial reactions to the conference championship games on Sunday night, excuse me, early Saturday morning, or early Sunday morning, late Saturday night, easy for me to say. But my reaction then, my reaction pod, which is the extra pod, which is available, by the way, if you haven't listened to it. I said that earlier, but just a reminder. But I said there after, because I went live after the ACC championship game finished up, that I was interested to see how the ACC championship game would be properly handled, because that game was a close game, and the feeling was that okay, SMU would win. Clemson's obviously out. Bama probably goes in, right? Then there's other camp that Dunaway, the next live going up. What if Clemson actually beats SMU, but beats them by multiple scores, and the playoff committee goes, "Oh man, SMU just got absolutely destroyed and you know burnt, disrespected on the field." Well, not really disrespected, but just blown out on the field, and it didn't look good. And then the playoff committee would probably view that as, hmm, SMU's probably not the team we want here. There's no way you can put these teams in. So SMU, goodbye. Thank you for trying. We'll let you know when we need you again. Clemson, welcome in. That didn't happen. It was a Clemson win, but it was a close game. Now, of course, it was a SMU comeback. At one point, it was like, what, 31-14? So it looked like we were going to go to a Clemson dominant win, SMU out, Bama probably in. To then all of a sudden, Jennings, the quarterback for SMU, comes all the way back and they tie the game up. And then Clemson kicks a 56-yard field goal to win the game, and Clemson's off, and so is SMU. On Saturday night, I told you guys I felt like based on the way how the SEC was going to be treated, particularly their championship game and the Big Ten was going to be treated. Those are the participants, both of those championship games, the SEC and the Big Ten, both their participants were going to be in. That was going to be obvious. I didn't feel like that was going to be the case for both the Big Ten, for the Big 12, and the ACC because of how those conferences are being valued by the playoff committee. The committee already told you how they value those conferences, especially the Big 12, with how, or actually the ACC, based on how far Miami had dropped. Now the Big 12 is going to be regardless, right? I mean, it's sort of like an unwritten rule. Big 10, SEC, the participants of those games will be in regardless, right? But it wasn't like that. It wasn't going to be like that, at least to my knowledge, for the ACC and the Big 12. It wasn't the case for the Big 12, just how bad Arizona State beat Iowa State to Oklahoma. But the ACC game or the ACC situation, at least to me, it felt like it was similar, regardless of the result. I think part of it was just how the conference was being treated, right? Yeah, Miami loses a couple weeks ago in rivalry weekend to Syracuse. They get bumped down to what, like 16 or 15 or something like that. So they're well out of the way out. And that to me was a signal. Okay, so the ACC is going to be treated pretty well, regardless of what the result is. Saturday, the loser of that game is probably out. I think the committee probably made the right decision if you're going to go the logic of, okay, these conference championship game participants can't be fully punished if the game's competitive. You saw that with Georgia, Texas, saw it with Penn State, Oregon. We didn't see it with Arizona and Arizona State, Iowa State, because Iowa State, it was a multiple touchdown loss. So at that point, I think you don't have to honor that one as much. But this Clemson SMU game was a very big test for the committee. If they were going to honor that, they're going to honor the conference championship participants. I didn't think they would. I thought they would go the resume route. If they were to compare the Bama, SMU resumes, SMU's resume strength of schedule just isn't good enough than Bama's. I thought they would go that way. I thought Bama would be in, but they didn't go that route. And I said this on Twitter immediately once the SMU logo popped up. And look, I'm not here to dash on SMU. Like, congratulations, Ray Lashley and company. Probably the best thing that's happened to them since Eric Dickerson and Craig James were crawling around on the sidelines, and the late Ron Meyer was there too. So congrats to them. That's a huge thing for them. Again, as someone who wanted a Florida State in last year, given the whole Jordan Travis crap, this to me, in some ways, felt like a recalibration, like an extension of the olive branch. The committee saying, "Hey, look, ACC, we're sorry for what happened last year. Here we go. We're sorry." Handshake emoji. That to me is sort of what happened here, at least to my opinion. I think that's what happened. It was an extension of the olive branch. It was a PR move. It was the playoff committee saying, "Hey, look, we got shut on last year, which is the past tense for shit on. Shut on last year for leaving Florida State out, even though they were undefeated and won the conference. So here's the extension of the olive branch. Now we have the 12-team playoff. SMU, look, I know you lost. We know your strength of schedule isn't good enough. Man, isn't as good as Bama's, but we're gonna let you in. At least that's to me probably was a factor into this. Now again, you can also go the route like I just laid out about honoring conference championship participants, and they honored it. So that surprised me a little bit. I didn't think they had it in them to do it, so they did. Congrats. I think that's interesting, at least that they're actually respecting the ACC, like I didn't, which was contrary to what I thought they were going to do, which is put them in and honor the strength of schedule element. Which, by the way, is a whole other topic too. I mean, the whole not properly evaluating strength of schedule is an issue. I mean, guess we can talk about it here, right? We're talking about the playoff, may as well. Don't worry, we'll get to the matchups here, but I just want to get air this out that the strength of schedule thing it needs to be properly handled, right? Yeah, you look at the Bama strength of schedule, any SEC team, right? Ole Miss, South Carolina, Bama, the three teams that were being considered here. Because if you look at the final rankings, they were clearly those are the three bubble teams, right? Um, they have to be properly evaluated. If strength of schedule is gonna be an element, which it should be an element, I think strength of schedule should be an element, and I don't think it was properly evaluated. I don't think it was. Um, I don't know what to say to that. I know a lot of folks are not happy, especially if you're in. I said this on the reaction show on Sunday, early Sunday morning. I mean, look, it was going to be a stressful time if you were in, Tuscaloosa, Alabama, or in Dallas, Texas. Now, that doesn't make you feel better for Alabama if you're an Alabama fan, if you're a South Carolina fan, if you're an Ole Miss fan. But strength of schedule to me was not properly, brought in, or at least was not properly baked in here. I just don't think the committee really honored and respected the whole strength of schedule standpoint, at least the whole strength of schedule element. I don't think it was properly interpreted to the extent that it should have been, given again the two super conferences and how much tougher their actual conference schedules are compared to between the ACC and the Big 12. Which I'm not saying they made the wrong decision. I think they did if they were going to go the honoring the conference championship component. Both participants, especially if it's a close game. I think they did that correctly by bringing in SMU. But if you were to do both, bring in the strength of schedule element, I do believe the strength of schedule element to some ways would outweigh the ACC, SMU losing the ACC. And again, the class didn't take into account obviously, and I don't think they make this in. At least I didn't think they'd make this in of having a close ACC championship game and Clemson winning. So I think that definitely threw and wrenched some things. I think they properly. I think what I'm trying to say here is that I think they made the right decision, but there's clearly some things, especially with evaluating resume and conference championship participation, that has to be reevaluated. Clearly has to be reevaluated for the strength of schedule. Again, if you go at it from a strength of schedule perspective with comparing the resumes between SMU and those three other SEC teams, the resumes don't match up. They're not the same. So hopefully there's some revision there. I mean, truthfully, I don't think it really matters that much now because it's redundant because the playoff is going to start. But that is one thing I would change. Um, of course, the other thing that they need to change is the auto bid thing. It's like, come on, like, Boise State's gonna have a bye. Like, we can talk about that later on. I don't want to go for a whole hour here on the show. But the auto bid thing, I mean, Josh Pate, you can go watch his show, and I basically agree with him. It's like, really, you're giving a G5 team a auto bid, and they're not even one of the four best teams or the top four best teams. Like, they're not. I don't think they deserve to buy, but whatever. Hopefully that gets reevaluated. Um, One thing here, but if I do move on to the matchups here, is that this whole thing. I brought this up on Twitter the other day on Sunday after it got announced when the playoff bracket was released, and it got some traction. No doubt, I got some traction on Twitter, and I'll say what I said here that there's going to be a lot of pissed off people in Birmingham, Alabama. And what I was referring to, and what I was sort of hinting at here is something that I've been talking about. A lot of folks in the industry have been mentioning in this, like Josh Pate, of course, has also been talking about this or hinting at this. The SEC and the Big Ten are eventually going to end up creating their own playoff. Um, and this was one of those scenarios. That being their teams being they're one of several of their key branded teams being left out. And I think that you with a lot of people. You saw Lane Kiffin's talked about it. You've seen Nick Saban talk about it on the reaction show. Look, that makes sense, right? They're the coaches, and they should be upset they got left out. Of course, Saban being a ambassador for the SEC, nothing against him, but you know, I saw some folks talking on him. It's like I don't know what else you want me to say. Like he's an ambassador for the sport and ambassador for the SEC and Bama. So it's like I didn't have a problem with him defending Bama and saying they should have been in because that's like what else do you want him to do? Like not say anything. Um, but I do think in a season like this, leaving the SEC out, especially bigger brands like Bama, this will get the ball rolling even more with the Big Ten and the SEC eventually creating their own playoff and turning the sport upside down. I know some folks don't believe that. Excuse me. I know some folks don't believe that. I know some folks laugh at that. It's like, oh man, that's never going to happen. Well, then why is people like Dennis Dodd and Josh Pate talking about it then? That to me seems like their signal. Like, why would they be talking about it if it's not happening behind the scenes? Like those discussions aren't happening. They fully are. I know they are. They are happening. And within the next, by the way, too, this playoff format, by the way, this 12-team format, it's not forever. It's going to be like what, like next year and year after. I think that's it. And then we go dark again. Like we don't know what's going to happen afterwards. Like the signal is there, even if it's not obvious. Like the playoff format, this 12-team format's not for the next 10 years. It's like for the next 2 years. Like after, like not including this year, so next year and the year after, and then I believe it's over. So what happens after that? Do we go to 16 teams, 20 teams? Or the SEC and the Big Ten, Tony Petitti and Ray Sankey come to rescue and say, "You know what? Why don't we just create our own playoff? Why don't we hijack this thing and just say, you know what? Why don't we just create our own, uh, our own little playoff where we are guaranteed to get spots and not getting left out like what happened this past Sunday." I guarantee you those conversations are happening, and I guarantee you that there were some pissed off people in Birmingham, Alabama. Like that, of course, that's where the SEC headquarters are, by the way, if you didn't know that. But I guarantee you there were some pissed off people there. A lot of folks are not happy. Coaches in the SEC are not happy. I'm sure Shane Beamer wasn't happy this week. Kellen DeBoer wasn't happy, especially Lane Kiffin. He's been pretty vocal about it. I'm just telling you, stuff like this and this organization of this whole playoff format, with the auto bids and how it's like the G5 team can get a first round bye over an SEC or an ACC or Big 12 team. That's going to have massive ramifications. And I do think the result is going to be we're going to get, sort of like Josh Pate echoed a few weeks ago, an AFC NFC model. With Big Ten SEC, then there's like a gap in between FCS and then FBS, which would be the G5, or I guess at that point the rest of college football, major college football. So I don't like it. I hope and pray it doesn't happen, but unfortunately, stuff like this, SEC teams being left out, the ball is already rolling. You can't stop it. It's gonna happen. The conversation's already out there again. Like why else would get people like Dennis Dodd or Josh maybe talking about this whole Big Ten exclusive SEC exclusive playoff being a real thing? It is. It is a real thing. I know folks don't like it, don't like to hear it, but it's what you wanted. You wanted it to look like the pro game, and it's gonna in the next 5 years it will. Like you may as well just call it the NFL Junior. And I don't like it. I think the SEC and the Big Ten going down this route, creating their own playoff, is going to turn the whole sport upside down. Now, look, I'll still watch it, but I can't like it. It's I get used a quote from Indiana Jones' Last Crusade when the guy tells young Indiana Jones saying, just because you lost today, kid, doesn't mean you have to like it. You know, us as college football fans are probably going to lose, but doesn't mean we have to like it. So, in terms of the actual matchups here, they're fun, right? We get Ohio State, Tennessee, cool. In-state, it's on campus. I don't know why I said in-state. It's not. Now, Indiana and Notre Dame is. I mean, that's whoever. I think I'll get into in just a second, like I mentioned earlier. But Ohio State, Tennessee, great matchup there. A lot of vibe situation there of Ohio State and Ryan Day, which is, by the way, if you didn't watch Josh Pate's appearance on Microphone Live yesterday, towards the end there, he sprinkles in something about Ryan Day and his future there if he loses again. Hmm, just something to consider there. He's kind of brought up, yeah, there's some real conversation happening from folks, and not just message board rumors or anything. It's now actual, like, national type of reporters are bringing it up. There's definitely some signal there that things there could get really weird if they lose that game. Of course, we have enough time to talk about it. We'll bring it up. Probably do our previews for that before Christmas break. So check the calendar here. Definitely sometime next week, when that's when the games start that weekend. Actually, next Friday, by the way, Notre Dame and Indiana play. So Tennessee, Ohio State, Tennessee. Nico goes on the road. Probably the biggest game in Josh Heupel's career, at least one of them. So that's cool. Clemson, Texas, a great uniform matchup here. Should be a great environment too. These are two teams that rarely even play each other, I believe. I think this is the first time they've ever played each other. So that's how about that? As I mentioned, Notre Dame, Indiana may as well be a Big Ten versus Big Ten game. It's very similar. Both of these, it's in-state games. Literally, like Indiana will likely travel by bus, right? So you would assume that very easy for the fan base to travel. By the way, too, the first time, I believe, is this right? The first time in in a long time that a Notre Dame home game is not going to be on it's not going to be on NBC. How about that? Never thought I'd ever see the day, but here we are. Like the only time we've ever seen a Notre Dame home game, not on NBC, is like what during like if you play like the old in-state game, like that's probably that. You don't know what I'm talking about. ESPN, and the last not this current not College Bowl 25, but the game before that, NCAA 14, when EA had the rights to ESPN. All of the games are on ESPN. So even when you play it as Notre Dame Dynasty mode or in play now mode at home, it was on ESPN. So that's like the only other time us as college football fans have seen a Notre Dame game in any format, even in real life or in video games, being played on a non-NBC channel. So how about that? Never thought I would see the day that would happen, but here we are. So that's definitely gonna be weird. I will say that. But some other games, some of the other uh, matchups here, or the last one, Penn State SMU. That feels like something from the '80s, right? Go back to Craig James and Eric Dickerson and Penn State with Joe Paterno as a head coach. Of course, this if we separate the whole scandal thing, I know that's a factor with Paterno's legacy, but take that away, definitely feels like something from the '80s, right? I mean, how about that SMU having a chance for the first time since Ron Meyer was head coach there, competing for a national championship, really having the ability to get there. Now, obviously, I'll make my predictions down the road, but before the games next week. But yeah, first round matchups are very fun. Haven't checked the FanDuel spreads yet. I would assume most of those are probably touchdown scores. Like the Penn State SMU game, I'm pretty sure it's like a 10 plus point spread. And then, of course, the winners of those games will move on to the New Year's Six bowl games, and then final two, and so on and so forth. So, look, like the matchups. Very excited to have on-campus games, additional on-campus games, but man, I just really wish we changed the format. Like, I just can't fathom Boise State having a first round bye while Clemson does not, or Texas does not. Like, okay, all right. I guess you be you. I guess if you want to. Anyway, I mean, I'm not going to spend the whole time talking about auto bids, how stupid they are, but they are. They're dumb. Like everyone else, I agree with that. So, again, love the matchups. Don't necessarily like the format. Hopefully that changes at some point. Going to get a quick drink of water over here real quick just to keep the voice going here. We won't go too much longer here. We got two more topics, then we get two more college football related topics. Then we have Buccaneers Raiders reaction. We'll be done here. Probably gonna be more of a shorter show. So real quick here, water real quick. Again, your feed's not going out. It doesn't run the audio. Just getting some water here. How about this? So, coaching search updates here. A couple, we'll mention a few here, and then we'll give my thoughts on the whole North Carolina situation. But how about this? I mentioned this on the original recording, if you want to the original stream, until I realized it was an issue with the conference championship game reactions. I brought this up the first time. I don't think I did on the second time. I don't think I did. So, but anyway, UCF has rehired Scott Frost. Scott Frost is once again back in Orlando after his tenure at Nebraska went down in spectacular fashion. Interesting move to say the least. I'm fascinated to see how he rebound, how Scott Frost rebounds from what happened at Nebraska, right? I think that's probably the best approach here to look at. I mean, you know who he is if you've been following college ball for a while. Started as an assistant coach under Mark Helfrich at Oregon, moved on to UCF, did wonders over there, like completely like the way you think of UCF now is thanks to Scott Frost and mostly George O'Leary, but mostly Scott Frost, especially that undefeated season. Then, of course, they hired Josh Heupel, continued it somewhat, and then you bring in Gus Malzahn, then he leaves for Florida State. Would have probably been fired. I think some folks in the industry believe there would have been a situation where he may have either just got fired or resigned and never coached again. But the reason why you think of UCF is thanks to Scott Frost. He is back now. Like I mentioned, I am very interested to see what lessons he's learned from what happened at Nebraska, and I think you would agree with that. There's a lot of lessons that could be learned from there. He made a lot of mistakes there, coaching hirings, recruiting, and just not being able to take advantage of the former Big Ten West and how open it was, and just just things that didn't happen there. Now he has a chance to come back and revive his career. So very interested to see what he does there. Excited, very excited to see there what he's able to do, what lessons he's learned from there. I think a lot of coaches. I mean, he's been all out of the game a little bit here, if I recall. I don't think he was coaching anywhere, so he's been available for a while. He could have gone back into coaching immediately after he got fired for Nebraska. He could have gone become a coordinator or went back to the G5 routes, but I think he did sort of like Kevin Solomon probably should have done. If you don't remember what happened with someone, he got fired from A&M, goes to Arizona. And I agree with Pate on this too, Josh Pate. He believed the same way. We both believe that someone either should have took a year off or just went to TV for a year and not coached again, but he didn't. Went to Arizona, just gross, was horrible. Um, Horrible tenure there. I mean, hell, he lost to Herm Edwards in Arizona State, what 70-7 or something like that. Just the definition of insanity. So Scott Frost, rightfully, and I think the correctly, took some time off, reevaluated himself, got himself rejuvenated. Now here he is back at UCF. Very fascinating to see what lessons again he's learned from that. What his staff's going to look like. Especially now, so much has changed since he's head coach, especially at UCF. Right now they're in power conference or supposedly power conference down the Big 12. And again, I'm interested to really see what lessons he learned from his Nebraska tenure, what he can improve on not in his second stint as a UCF head coach. So that happened. Barry Odom is not at Purdue. How about that? Thought Barry Odom at some point was going to get a P4 job. Now here he is at Purdue. Once again, Purdue doing the defensive coach route. Of course, this is we're trying to see what his staff is like. Brian Marion doesn't look like he's going to join him. I think he's at Oklahoma State actually. He's joining Mike Gundy's staff. By the way, I'll touch on the Mike Gundy thing here in just a second. But yeah, interesting to see what Odom does here with the staff. Purdue, very very much so familiar with having a unique offense, of course. Something about Elliott mentioned yesterday. I kind of rip, especially mostly with when it comes to defensive coaches. You had to have a very unique offensive mindset, right? You can't just go do what Zach Arnett did at Mississippi State or do what Will Muschamp did at both South Carolina and at Florida, which is running a very generic offense. You have to be very unique, especially too if some of these underutilized or under-resourced programs like Mississippi State, South Carolina, Purdue. You have to sort of think outside the box, or you have to use sort of different tactics and sort of different offensive game plans and whatnot to have success there, right? You have to. It's not a rule. It's on the United States Constitution, but it is a unwritten rule that if you're a defensive coach, especially at a under-resourced program, you have to run a very unique offense. You have to run something that the big boys have to sweat out and go, oh man, I really don't want to see what we have. Like you have to run a very, very specific offense that is unique to that conference. You can't just run something that other teams run. Like again, going back to the Zach Arnett example, like what Zach Arnett was running, the App State power run format, but something the SEC has seen for like 20 years, right? I mean, you gotta be very unique. Very, 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 very unique on offense, especially again at lower at lower tiered, under resourced, power programs, you have to run a very unique offense. You have to, use different tactics and, maybe go in the portal and get some guys who maybe didn't do well in the P4, other P4 programs or in the really good G5 players. That's sort of, it's not like a manual, it's not a guidebook, but it's a very, very well known, formula to have success. Again, think Dan Mullen at Mississippi State, think Mike Leach, think Jeff Braun at Purdue. That's the success you have to have there at these under resourced programs. You can't do what Zach Arnett did. You can't do what Will Muschamp tried to do. You have to think outside the box, have a creative offense. Barry Odom knows that because he had, the go-go offense. Brian Marion, of course, now Marion's over at Oklahoma State now, looks like. So I'm interested to see who he hires as the OC. Very fascinating to see that. Speaking of Oklahoma State, Mike Gundy's still the coach there. There was stuff going around over the weekend about him taking a reduced salary, and there's a chance he might get fired. I will echo what Josh Pate mentioned, someone on Twitter, that we are going to start seeing some of these coaches and big time coaches like Mike Norvell's of the world and now Mike Gundy's who have a horrible season. Everyone knows, of course, say Mike Norvell last year, 13-win season. This year, 2-win season. I don't think folks really understand what happened to Oklahoma State this year because Oklahoma State last year, I believe, won like 9 or 10 games or whatever. They went 3-9. Like, that's the first time in Mike Gundy's coaching career that he has had a losing season, and he's been the model of consistency out there. It's been think about this: when Oklahoma and Texas were in the conference, the Big 12 conference I'm referring to, the model of consistency was not Texas, it was not even Oklahoma a lot. It was Oklahoma State, not Oklahoma State. Like Mike Gundy has won 9 games per year. Every single year he's been at Oklahoma State. He's had a lot of success here. Now, contrary to what I've heard from people close to me, have said that, of course, the atmosphere there isn't going to match an SEC environment, and that's understandable and that's fair. Even though that's what I have seen. There's been several big games, Oklahoma games, Bedlam games, and several games when, TCU town, and they were like a top 10 team or whatever under Gary Patterson, like late in the early 2010s or whatever. So it's had good environments there, but obviously it's not like an SEC environment. It's not Auburn. It's not, Georgia. It's not even South Carolina. But Oklahoma State was the model of consistency for a long time. And now, Mike Gundy and company goes 3-9. And what, Pay was saying on Twitter this week, and I agree, that you're going to have coaches like Norvell or a Mike Gundy who have been very, very consistent, have had very, very multiple good years, and it takes one bad year, and then all of a sudden they're on the hot seat. I don't think it's necessarily fair. I agree with Payne on this. I don't think it's fair, but you're going to start seeing that. You're going to start seeing some of these guys have to, make, gentleman agreement saying, the school saying, hey, listen, man, we don't like where this is going. We understand it's, it's only 1 year, but we have to, in this ever-changing world of college football, we need you to be consistent. So instead of giving you like 4+ years, it's now 3 years to get it done. So, Hugh Freeze is another example too. Hugh Freeze is going to be on the hot seat next year. There's no way of sugarcoating that. I don't like it, but it's what, same with Norvell, same with now, I guess Mike Gundy too now. Mike Gundy has one bad year and he's already on the freaking hot seat. Like that's logical, right? Someone who's a legend there is going to get a statue. You're going to shit on him and then try to redo. Anyway, I'm going to get mad but still, the whole Mike Gundy thing that pissed me off this week, and that sure did a lot of people. But it's the world we live in. It's the world we live in now. So you have one bad year, and all of a sudden you're going to get fired. Okay, all right. So I don't know, but still, I think that's it's not the way I would handle it, but it's nothing. I can't do anything about it. I mean, hell, I'm a guy who has a microphone. Talk really, but the reason why I'm so passionate about this because I know from listening to shows like Cover 3, Pate, these are real human beings. These are guys who care. Like Mike Gundy's not an idiot. He's not dumb. Like this year, what happened this year? What happened this year? Like they can very easily 9 and win 3-9 this year, and the next year they can go win 10 games. So that's not. It just feels like to me some of these athletic departments, get cold feet. Michael Florida State too, where you go, oh no, the whole program's falling apart. The program's not falling apart. There's no scandal going on. Like Mike Norvell is not like losing recruits or anything. Like, okay, sure, like Luke Cromino goes into the portal. Great. I got water for my fridge today. Like that's not That's not unexpected. Like, I don't it just worries me, this new model now with the playoff expanding now, these coaches now are under so much more pressure now. You have to win, 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 win. One bad season or even, even your first year, you go 5 and 7. Oh, sorry, trap door opens up and you go in the coaching hell. Like, okay, so what? Now you want to turn to the NFL now, where you just get coaches only have like 1.5 years to get it figured out. Like, anyway, I could do a whole other segment on this, but it pisses me off, really does. Another notable move here, Brock Mendenhall, by the way, at Utah State. Of course, Blake Anderson got fired over this past summer for a scandal. So it wasn't on the field, it was field related. So Broncos now back in the state of Utah. How about that? Utah State. Fascinating. He's a guy, Brock Mendenhall is a guy that could very well be back in the P4 very, very soon. And he literally like turned around in New Mexico, by the way. They went 5 and 7 this year, and I look at them and go, 5 and 7. No, I got water from my refrigerator today. New Mexico was one of the worst teams in all of FBS last year. They were like UMass level bad last year. So that's not a golf clap for Markham in the hall to get that thing turned around. That was not an easy thing to turn around there. One last thing here on the coaching carousel, this UNC thing. I don't know what to say about it. I mean, there's reports going out that Belichick, I guess, wants the job. He wants it. Seems like UNC and the board of directors are dragging their feet on this, thinking, "Oh man, this is a regular over Tuesday." Oh, wait a minute. Belichick is actually serious about getting this job. We haven't hired a coach yet, and the portal has been open for over 24 hours. Oh, we should try hire a coach. Here I was thinking in North Carolina was going to be serious about football, getting rid of Mac Brown. I'm not I'm saying that thinking like I hate Mac Brown. I don't. I don't hate Mac Brown. I love Mac Brown. I think he's a good guy. I think he's been successful where he's been at. I just think he holds the future for North Carolina football, necessarily the long term result. So I thought them moving on from him early on, at least getting it over with, well before portal open, felt like to me, oh, was taking this seriously, and they were gonna, go after guys like Jamie Chadwell and John Sewell, and now Sewell is locked in he's now locked in at Tulane, and the Jamie Chadwell stuff has sort of quieted down a little bit, and now the Belichick rumors are persisting. And now he's, going on Pat McAfee show yesterday and saying we'll see. And now this report comes out from some of the North Carolina beat writers saying, hey, look, Belichick is supposedly he's willing to do this, and North Carolina's like, oh, you're actually serious about doing this. We are just dragging our feet and not being serious about this. Look, if they end up hiring Belichick, we'll do an extra pod probably. But I'll just say this: as much respect I have for Belichick from the NFL perspective, like Belichick could have easily taken any of these NFL jobs that are open currently or open. But I'll just say this, and I'll probably echo this again if we end up doing a special little, reaction to him being hired, a little emergency pod. I will just say this: go look at what Herm Edwards did at Arizona State. If you're a North Carolina fan, that should concern you. Now, I'm not saying there's gonna be some scandal or anything. It's just from an organizational standpoint, what Herm Edwards did at Arizona State and how disorganized that was should scare you. Now, you should also look at the Jim Harbaugh thing and go, well, the other side of the coin says that, hiring a NFL head coach, former XFL head coach has worked too with Jim Harbaugh. You're not wrong about that. But then again, like I just mentioned, there's the other side of the coin, the Herm Edwards experience. And you saw how bad, you know, Arizona State was when Kenny Dillingham got there. Literally turn that thing around, so quickly, and it's like that guy deserves an award for doing that. But I'm just telling you that I don't know if it's the hire I would have made, but in the words of Tom Formelli, good hire for UNC. I don't know how it's gonna work out. So the ball is in UNC's court apparently. The board of directors, so they're what? They're gonna drop I mean, the portal's been open for 24 hours or so. I don't think if their players have left, but if they continue to drag this on more and more, they're eventually gonna have some of those guys leave. So I'm just telling you like that, okay, whatever. You guys can continue to drag this on all you want, but it's not gonna help unless there's some other mystery candidate here that I'm not aware of, and I think there are to mystery candidates, but not to my destruction that there ever was. But well, it's in North Carolina's court. The ball's in your court. That to me is what Belichick is telling you. It's in your court. You just have to make a decision. And apparently they have been sitting on this for a while. And not to mention there's been different factions over there. Some folks don't want him apparently, and some do. So it's like that's where sounds very familiar to a certain school in Lee County, Alabama, doesn't it? Sure does, doesn't it? Let's get into some transfer portal stuff, and then we'll wrap up the show with Buccaneers here. Transfer portal. Some new players have entered in. Eric Singleton, wide receiver from Georgia Tech, hot commodity. Auburn should have interest here. LSU should have interest. Ole Miss will have interest here. Bama should have interest here. That's currently the number one overall uh, player according to 247 using their database here. So Nick Singleton, I mean not Nick Singleton from Penn State. Eric Singleton Jr. Not the last names are similar, but Eric Singleton Jr. in the portal. He enters in the database, so he's in it. I think I mentioned earlier, Luke Crumenoke, he's left. He's left Florida State. He's in the portal. Does that necessarily mean he stays in there and then comes back? We'll see. That's a little disclaimer there too for any of these guys. Like even Eric Singleton Jr. He could very easily just come back in. Doesn't seem like that, but he could. He could come back to Georgia Tech. Bring keys, waving hello. You guys know you can always come back. Same with Luke Crumenoke. So he's available. Um, Hunter Zuberno, a inside interior offensive line, leaving Illinois State, four-star player according to 247. Definitely some schools would be in the mix for that. Dane Key from Kentucky, we're going to get some looks here from SEC teams in particular. Again, big Auburn, teams are going to be really in the portal. Miami too, for example. Bama probably. Nick Anderson from Oklahoma, he's in the portal too. Jaheim Otis, defensive lineman, Alabama. And he's supposedly going to Ole Miss. That's the prediction there from the folks over at 247. Casey Concepcion still again. I think Auburn's in the Auburn next year. Miami probably. Alabama. Some of the big boys are probably in that. The reason I bring up Auburn is because everyone believes Auburn will be spending a lot in the portal, and they already got someone. I'll mention that here in just a moment. Um, Mike Hudson, Texas Tech, five-star guy, still available. We'll see what happens there. Malik Murphy's in the portal again, casually in there again. So this will be his third school. If he does end up staying in the portal, he ends up leaving. This will be his third school in 2 years. So how about that? So what's up with that, right? So he's available now. You're him back a couple years ago. We talked about it after the Texas spring game. So with that, right? But a long time ago. But there he is. He is once again in the portal in the database. Carter Wegman's still out there. Miller Moss is still available. Um, if I continue to go down here, Ashton Daniels, by the way, the quarterback from Stanford, looks like he's going to Auburn. At least that's the feeling there. He looks like he's going to go to Auburn. I will just say this: if you're an Auburn fan, you look at this, hold out in your news feed yesterday, and go, "Why are we getting him?" Well, from what it seems like, at least this is to my knowledge from some of the folks I follow, he's not the starter. Or to me, at the very least, he's not going to be the starter. He will be in competition. So I still that to say in translation, there is another quarterback Auburn's going to get. So that's one down. Supposedly, there is another. The words of Yoda from Empire Strikes Back. There's another. I would assume the starter is not Daniels, more likely. So he is going to be an Auburn Tiger, more likely, but not necessarily seem like he's going to be the starter. He's definitely just there for depth pieces or depth purposes, not necessarily a massive get the job. He's not going to be the starter, for example. Like some of these guys, like Promino, Murphy, Wegman, Moss, Darian Messia. I think that's how you say his name from Tulane's also another option. Jackson Arnold seems like he's going to Mississippi State. The connection here of Jeff Lebby. Interesting to say the least. I don't know if that's the program I would have been looking at, but makes sense if you know the history there. Kansas Ulster from Liberty still available as well. Um, Thomas Castellanos, by the way, is going to Florida State, so that's seemingly confirmed now. He's going there, so makes more sense here why Kromenhoek is hitting the door there. Anthony Clarendon too is still available, so if you're looking for another depth piece there, any team can use him. Yeah, he's a really good player too. Now, granted, he's not the best player available, but he is an option for someone. It'd be interesting to see. He's a very talented kid too. Um, I want to address this too. The Dylan Raiola rumors. These are going around. I think Chris Summer over at 247 mentioned this yesterday, and the guys on Curve Three brought this up too about there was some speculation and theories going around that hey, Dylan Raiola in Miami, there might be a connection to OC. To my knowledge, I don't think I just don't know. Look, I'm not here bashing on Chris Summers. He's obviously pretty smart, but I just wonder where those rumors came from. I just wonder. Again, there's so many players out there. And this is something that Josh has mentioned too, back on. I think it's Sean Sunday or Thursday actually. That there's been players in all these portal cycles. Think Drake May a couple years ago. Think this past portal cycle when Pate was teasing some stuff. There will be stories just in general of players who are testing the waters for back channels, again, the whole tampering thing, that never get told, that never get leaked. My personal opinion on this whole Raiola thing is that this was something that got leaked that was just, him putting some feelers out there, him seeing what the market was like, and I think Chris Summer just opened his mouth and felt confident enough to say it, that yes, he is a name that we are watching to enter into the database. So far, he hasn't. I know he was at the Chiefs game this weekend, so that's cool. Patrick Mahomes' clone was there, so that's great. But Raiola put something on his socials. He looks like he's staying, but can we trust him though? I think he is gonna stay, but also I'm keeping an eye on it too. So again, I think what Herman was saying was true, but I think within full context, I think it was let's test the waters here. Let's see what Nebraska can they match this or whatnot. Let's get our name out there a little bit. Let's poke, hit the cattle prod a little bit and see what teams would be in the market. And I guess Miami would be one of them. Makes sense, right? Miami will definitely be in the portal. Them LSU Auburn are sort of the big boys. They'll be in the market for a quarterback in the future. But yeah, just figured out just rumors there from Dylan Raiola stuff. Um, I think that's it for the college football. Yeah, no other news I can report on right now, but at least college football. I think Thursday we'll do some. Yeah, I know there's some breaking news though with Marvel with Chris Evans coming back. I'll touch on that on Thursday. I make sure I remind myself on that. Of course, we'll go over Skeleton Crew reaction, other Star Wars news. I believe it's been out there, and some other Marvel stuff too. We'll touch on it on Thursday. But we'll click here, get some more water, and we'll touch on Buccaneers Raiders. So, as we finish up the show here, wrap it up. Buccaneers win 28-13. Uh, Low scoring game, more slugfest if you will, not necessarily what I thought we were going to get, but no less. It's continuing the Buccaneers win streak. They are for the first time, I believe in 2 months. They're over 500. How about that? 7-6. They have to go to LA this weekend. I will talk about that game on Thursday. Ad nauseam, do a massive preview there. This game in general, it's like defensively, I think Tampa did some good things. I mean, you have obviously a very undermanned Raiders team, which boy, they look just as bad as their record says they are. I know it's different in college football. You're not what your record says you are, but in the NFL, you are. So that uh, easily the worst team Tampa has faced all year. I know you can make the argument for the Giants, but both of those teams, I guess you can flip flop each week. They're two of the worst teams in the league. Just gross, horrible. Um, so defensively, you saw what you wanted to see. You gave up 13 points. I mean, Mark Barron's had a couple of good catches, but generally you were able to minimize his usage. Um, I think the issues here, at least to me, more of the complaints here is the offense. Probably the worst game of the Liam Combs era. Not the best performance. Baker now leads. I think I said this on Twitter. He now either is tied for the most interceptions, or at least he's up there with I think Mahomes is up there, and I think Kirk Cousins is up there too. So those three are up there with the most interceptions in the league right now, which is not good. Definitely a step back from last year, but I mean, it is what it is. Nothing I can do about it. Nothing Bucs fans can do about it. Don't like it. But yeah, another multiple interception game from Baker. Not good. Would really hope you would quit doing that. But look, I'm not the coaches. Hopefully, that's something that doesn't continue to rear its ugly head. And I'll say this too: the interception problem hasn't been the reason why they've lost the games, which is interesting to mention. Like a lot of these games they've lost, it's not been a Baker Mayfield interception, at least to my memory, hasn't been the reason why they've lost these games. It's mainly just been the defense. Has defense has been really bad. So they're going against a very formidable opponent this weekend. Probably the best opponent or the most formidable opponent left in this schedule. If you want to consider Dallas one, go ahead. I personally do not. They're more instead of them being asleep, and they're more asleep. But yeah, offense this weekend not good. Um, the running attack was pretty good. Right, Bucky Irving had a good day. Got hurt. He was banged up a little bit from last week too. Rashard White kind of reminded us why he is still technically running back one, and Sean Tucker had a decent game. McMillan, by the way, Washington rookie receiver had a great game. Two touchdowns. He has three now in the year. How about that? Kid's definitely going to be watching him and watching his career of your good interest. See if he pans out, continues to improve. But yeah, defense good, offense sluggish. Again, probably the worst performance of the Liam Coleman era. Which is kind of strange to say. It's like the first, several weeks or so up until now, it's everything's been pretty good. Like the offense has not been the problem outside of turnovers, and they're a problem again this weekend. But just overall performance offensively, I mean, offensive line wasn't the best. And Baker got sacked a few times. Which is again strange is like you would have thought this performance if you were just to do, take away which games it was and jumble up, the result and everything, you would say, oh, this was, game one of the year. If you look at if you didn't know who the opponent was and you just saw the result, give a Buccaneers fan over the summer, 28-13, give you you gave them two Baker stats and everything. All the stats are the same. You just don't know who the opponent was. You would say, oh, that must have been week one versus the Commanders. No, it was actually week 13 versus one of the worst teams in the league. So hopefully not rock bottom or this isn't rock bottom for Tampa, at least offensively. They will not perform like this against a fairly formidable Chargers defense, I would say. Probably the best defense they faced all year. I will go ahead and just admit that. I think it is. I think they have not faced a defense like this, and I will talk more ad nauseam about that on Thursday. So that's it for the show. Don't think we did this in an hour. Yeah, just under an hour. So how about that? First show in several weeks that we've been under an hour. How about that? So we'll be back on Thursday. We'll touch on some more Marvel, Star Wars news. We'll give you guys updates on the portal situation, coaching searches. I will say this too. If again, just a reminder, if the Belichick news ends up happening, I'm checking my phone here just to make sure it has not. Okay, he has not. So nothing has happened yet, at least to my knowledge. I should probably check Twitter too, just to be sure. Double check here. Always make sure you're, if you ever do a live forming podcast, make sure you double check and see there's no breaking news and you have to stay on here. I want you to double check here. I don't think there's any breaking news. No, there is not. So no news on Belichick. So if the Belichick news happens in between now and Thursday, I'll do a special reaction. So you may see it either later tonight because I have somewhere to go. I have grad school to go to. So that last class is tonight. So how about that? But yeah, we will. Next time you'll see me probably be Thursday. If not, sometime earlier, probably again with the Belichick rumors and stuff. If UNC and them quit dragging their feet, we can officially put this to bed and we can do a emergency pod. So until Thursday, most likely. If not, maybe sooner. Have a great rest of your Tuesday, Wednesday, whenever you're listening to this. We'll see you guys on Thursday. Until then, take care, and we'll see you next time.